Most people believe that if a room feels like an oven in summer, there's only one solution. Turn on the air conditioner. And that's exactly what power companies want you to believe. But what if I told you there's a simple setup that can make a room feel dramatically cooler in less than 3 minutes, without AC, without a fan, and without using a single watt of electricity? It sounds impossible. In fact, when researchers first observed the effect behind this trick, many people dismissed it because it seemed too simple to work. Yet hidden inside some of the oldest buildings on Earth is a cooling secret so effective that it kept people comfortable long before electricity even existed. And today, almost nobody talks about it. Imagine it's one of those brutal summer afternoons. The sun is beating down on your house. The walls feel warm to the touch. You walk into your bedroom expecting relief, but instead it feels like you've stepped into a giant toaster. The natural reaction is to reach for the thermostat. But here's the problem. The average American spends hundreds of dollars every year trying to fight heat. And despite all that money, many homes still feel uncomfortable. That's because most people are fighting the wrong enemy. The real enemy isn't the hot air. And that's where this story gets interesting. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel. A few years ago, researchers studying traditional desert architecture noticed something strange. In some of the hottest places on Earth, where temperatures regularly climbed above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, certain buildings stayed surprisingly comfortable inside. No compressors, no electricity, no complicated technology, just physics. The same physics that most modern homes accidentally ignore every single day. At first glance, these buildings looked ordinary. Thick walls, small openings, courtyards, nothing revolutionary. But hidden inside was a simple principle that changes everything once you understand it. The people who built these structures knew something we've forgotten. Heat doesn't just move through air, it also moves through surfaces. And sometimes the thing making you feel hot isn't the temperature itself, it's what your body is absorbing. Think about standing outside on an 80-degree day under direct sunlight. Now imagine standing under a large tree on that same 80-degree day. The air temperature hasn't changed, yet one feels comfortable and the other feels much hotter. Why? Because your body is constantly exchanging heat with the environment around it. And this is where the mystery starts to unfold. Most people obsess over air temperature, but scientists use another measurement called radiant heat. Radiant heat comes from warm surfaces around you, walls, ceilings, windows, floors. When these surfaces absorb sunlight throughout the day, they become giant heat batteries. Even if the air isn't extremely hot, those surfaces continue radiating heat back into the room and directly into your body. So here's the shocking part. If you reduce the radiant heat entering a room, the room can feel dramatically cooler even before the air temperature changes significantly. And the setup that accomplishes this takes less than 3 minutes. But before I show you exactly how it works, there's something even more surprising. Researchers studying urban heat islands discovered that sunlight entering through windows can create massive temperature differences inside homes. A single sunlit window can act like a giant heat injector, pouring thermal energy into a room hour after hour. In fact, some studies have found that windows are responsible for a significant portion of unwanted summer heat gain. Now think about how most people deal with that problem. They wait until the room is already hot. Then they turn on expensive cooling systems. It's like trying to stop a flood after the water is already inside your house. The smarter strategy is stopping the heat before it enters. And this is where our 3-minute setup comes in. Take a reflective emergency blanket, the kind sold in camping stores for a few dollars. Most people see it as survival gear, but its real superpower is something else entirely. These blankets are designed to reflect radiant energy. That's why they help people retain heat in emergencies. But when positioned correctly against a sun-facing window, they can also reflect a large amount of incoming solar radiation before it spreads through the room. The first time people try this, they usually expect nothing. Then something strange happens. The room starts feeling different, not instantly cold, but noticeably less oppressive. The intense heat buildup slows down, surfaces stay cooler, the room becomes more comfortable. And that isn't even the most fascinating part, because reflective barriers are only half the story. Remember those ancient buildings we talked about earlier? They relied on another hidden principle, thermal timing. Most homes trap heat during the day and then struggle to remove it later. Traditional structures did the opposite. They blocked heat during peak sunlight and released stored heat when outdoor temperatures dropped. In practical terms, this means opening windows during the coolest parts of the night and early morning, then sealing them before outdoor temperatures rise. It sounds almost too obvious, yet countless people do the exact reverse. They leave windows exposed all day. Heat floods in. Then they wonder why their rooms feel unbearable. What happened next surprised researchers studying passive cooling techniques. When radiant heat reduction was combined with proper timing, comfort levels improved far beyond what either method achieved alone. And now we arrive at the final piece of the puzzle. The piece most people completely overlook: your ceiling. Heat naturally rises. Over time, ceilings become massive reservoirs of stored warmth. Walk into a room after sunset and place your hand near the ceiling. You'll often notice it's significantly warmer than lower areas. Ancient builders understood this. That's why many traditional structures featured high ceilings, ventilation paths, and shaded roof designs. Today, there's a simple version of the same idea. Close off unused upper spaces. Keep doors arranged to minimize heat migration into occupied areas. Reduce unnecessary heat sources like unused electronics, gaming consoles, chargers, and bright lighting during the hottest periods of the day. It sounds small, but together these actions create a compounding effect. And this is where everything suddenly clicks. The goal isn't generating cold air, the goal is preventing heat accumulation. Most cooling systems work by removing heat after it has already invaded your living space. Passive cooling works by preventing much of that invasion from happening in the first place. It's a completely different mindset, and once you see it, you start noticing hidden opportunities everywhere. You notice which windows receive the most sunlight. You notice which rooms stay comfortable naturally. You notice how certain materials heat up faster than others. You start understanding your home almost like an engineer studying a machine, and that's empowering. Because instead of being trapped in an endless battle against rising temperatures and rising utility bills, you're working with the laws of physics rather than against them. Of course, let's be realistic. No passive cooling trick is going to transform a 100-degree room into an icebox. Anyone claiming that is selling a fantasy. But what these methods can do is reduce heat gain, improve comfort, and make rooms feel significantly more livable without spending money every hour they operate. And perhaps the biggest surprise of all is that these aren't new discoveries. They're ancient discoveries. Knowledge humanity understood centuries ago. Knowledge hidden in old buildings, forgotten construction techniques, and simple observations of how heat actually behaves. Somehow, we replaced that wisdom with the assumption that every problem requires more technology, more energy, and bigger electric bills. But sometimes the smartest solution isn't adding something, it's stopping something. Stopping heat before it enters, stopping sunlight before it becomes trapped, stopping your home from turning into a giant thermal battery, and that simple shift in thinking changes everything. The next time a room starts feeling unbearably hot, don't immediately ask how to cool it. Ask how the heat got there in the first place. Because the answer to that question might save you more discomfort, more frustration, and more money than any gadget ever could. And if you enjoyed uncovering this hidden cooling secret, subscribe to Life Decoded. Because some of the most powerful upgrades for everyday life aren't expensive products or complicated technologies. They're forgotten principles hiding in plain sight, waiting to be decoded.